Hello and welcome to SML Total Access. I'm Primetime 000, and with me today are my two co-hosts, Dan and Matt. What's going on, fellas?
Let's go, boys. Another Sunday, another real football. Madden's moving strong.
Yeah, I'm excited for the topics today. Let's get it going.
Yes, and let's get it going with first down here. A little touchy subject for some. Our kickoff returns cheese, and the odd guy is going to start first.
I don't think they're cheese. I think cheese is a very strong word. I think that's when you start to manipulate the AI, or you just run the same thing over and over and over. I don't. I think the obviously kick returns are broken, but I don't running them back. I don't think it's cheese. I think it's disrespectful. I know in the last few games I've played, luckily I've had a gentleman's agreement with my owner or my opponent that we won't be returning kicks. I've let them bounce. Heck, they could land at the 4 yard line. I let them bounce into the end zone. They pretty much always do, so there's no risk there. It's broken. There's no skill. You just run straight. Sometimes you need to run right or left, and the C's just part. So if they don't fix that, hopefully people start to stop doing that. I know I personally would rather lose a game and not return kicks than win one because I return kicks. But I don't think calling him cheese is the right word. But I look at you a little bit differently if you're always running them 5, 6, 7 yards out of the end zone.
Dan?
Yeah, I'm with Matt on this one. I think this falls into that category of not cheese, but just feels not so good. And let's be honest, everyone in the league. I don't care if you sit there and you try to take the highest road. Everyone in the league does something that someone else looks at and says, "Man, I wouldn't do that way, or I wouldn't play that way," or that's what I call, not playing sim. I mean, whether it's running at the end of the first half to get your, freight train activated, or whether it's pounding on the button set on a field goal block so you can kind of manipulate the system and get a field goal block. I mean, all that stuff really is just it's not cheese, but it's just borderline of what we would call sim. Kickoff returns in the NFL are not happening. Kickoff returns are going out of bounds. Very few are returning them, and we're seeing just a crazy amount of them right now. And so I'm with Matt. I'm trying to kneel anything in the end zone. I haven't gone a route yet of moving out of the way in the field because I just don't trust the bounce. But maybe that's the route I go. I haven't returned one yet, and honestly, if I would have break one, I might even just fall down just because I don't like them at all. I think they're a joke of the game, and I don't think it's any necessary to return them.
Yeah, Dan, you have a good point there, and everybody has their what they think is quote unquote right or wrong. And obviously, you have the purists of the world, and maybe that should be a topic one day. But I remember last cycle, I played this guy who I would consider a purist and pretty firm in his beliefs. And he thinks things should be done certain ways. But then it was like right before halftime, he threw like a Hail Mary from his own 10 yard line, and it drew a PI because he stopped on it. And I was sitting there thinking, like, okay, like, you can't be too critical because you probably do something that isn't necessarily right. Now, for this example, yeah, I think it just feels a little tic tacky. I'll return them if they're inside, like not in the end zone. But I don't let them bounce because I don't trust Madden. Maybe I should. But if you return one a game, like if I actually did return one, even from not going to the goal line, I would probably start falling down just because, first of all, I don't want to win that way. And secondly, it does feel like I'm kind of taking advantage of a flaw in the game right now. Let's move on, though. Second down. Hey, this is about the GOAT. Will Prime go unbeaten? Dan, we'll start with you.
Well, the question should have been: is he going to go undefeated in the regular season, or is he going to go 20-0? Because I do think Prime's playing really good ball. I do think he's locked in. I think he's determined to prove some things after kind of subpar cycle last cycle. And
Yeah.
the Colts are not a top five team. We can let that kind of go away, but they have some really good pieces that fit really good for this Madden. So
Yeah.
they are a really good Madden team. He got Baker for a bag of peanuts and a promise not to kick Monty out. He's got everything he needs. Will he go undefeated and go 20-0? That I'm not confident enough to say right now. I've seen enough the play this year to know, man, some crazy things can happen. Jump balls happen, fluke fumbles happen. A lot of things can happen that I do not think he can go 20-0. But I do think the regular season, I don't think he has too many more tough games on his schedule. I'd have to double check. I looked at it one time and thought, yeah, he can do it. So I'm going to say yes the regular season and not quite yet for 20-0.
Yeah, I'm gonna definitely say yes for the rest of the regular season. I felt like you were most likely to lose a game during this first 8 weeks than you were the last 10 weeks. With Faz twice, you had QB, you had Freight Train, Derrick Henry, you had Doink who plays this game a lot, but you beat them all. And your next stretch is Fig, Two Step. I don't. They have very few wins. I know Two Step actually doesn't have any. Old Man Woods, you'll wreck him. And then you've got Colt, you've got Grams, you've got Gutta, you've got me, you've got Tiny, then you got RD, who's the Texans. The way you're playing, I don't know if it really matters who's on your schedule. I think you beat them all, but looking at this, yeah, for sure. Not to go all the way, that's going to be tough. As we get further in the season, a lot of these guys, Bomber, maybe Faz, if he can bounce back, are going to get more play time. They're going to start to maybe figure some things out. So it's tough to say. But regular season, absolutely. I think you're going to go undefeated for sure.
Yeah, typically I don't care about regular season accolades, but after last cycle, I guess I want to say this. I've kind of put a lot more work in pre-cycle than I typically do, and I'm trying to take regular season more seriously because I feel like it cost me the last few seasons, last cycle particularly. So I'm going for it. I know Matt's there, Grams is there, and RD's still a good player. I don't know if I win in the regular season, but I'm definitely gunning for Super Bowl season 1. And I do want to say, if I win a season 1 Super Bowl with the Colts, with teams like, I know the Browns are good, the Bills are good, Packers meets, Bucks are good. There's some like legit elite level teams season 1. I would take that as a pretty good accomplishment because I know the Colts, yeah, they're not a bad team. I don't think they're a top 10 team, but they're probably in the 10 to 17 range, and winning a season 1 title with that team would be like Dan winning one with a Falcons team, even though the Falcons were a little bit worse than the Colts. I would add that to one of my favorite Simbardis, I think, if I could pull that off.
I think so too. You have some pieces with Leonard and Buckner is just an absolute force up the middle. Obviously Jonathan Taylor, but I mean, really, when you start to get outside of that, you've got a lot of raw talent. I know you got some fast safeties, but they're completely raw. So yeah, I think it'd be really impressive. I mean, I think even the Jaguars are better than you, and you're slaughtering them. So, yeah. Now let's just say the division's locked up, week 16-ish. You got 3 games left. You're gonna go for it. You're not resting anybody, no matter what.
I am going for it. I don't typically go for it, but I'm playing angry this season in this cycle, so I'm going for it.
Man, I had to hold my breath there for a second because I was having a hard time just hearing some of this talk. The Jaguars as good as the Colts? The Colts don't have any. Man, you guys aren't understanding how this game plays.
Well,
I'm not gonna say it because I don't want to reveal all the secrets, but the Colts have seriously good pieces for how this game plays. They are way more significant than the Jaguars. They're not the elite level teams. I'll give you that.
They're not a top 10. They're not a top 10
better
team
out there, but they are right underneath that. They are a sneaky, really good Madden team, and Prime is working them to the max. But don't give me the song and dance that they're just as good as the Jaguars. That's baloney, man. This team is loaded for what you need.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I think of 10 teams, and I could list them probably if you wanted me to, that are significantly better. So when you consider, it's like Bomber with the Browns last year. I mean, season 1, I mean, the whole cycle he looked great, but he had such an advantage season 1. I think my point was like, hey, I don't think the Colts have that good of talent, obviously, and probably to Matt's point as well. It'll be interesting once we get in the playoffs and I have to play these elite teams like the Bills maybe or the Chargers and teams like that are really good. But, hey, for now I'm going to enjoy my streak, and I'll probably blow it soon.
Play the Bills in the playoffs. So what are you talking about? The Bills in the playoffs. DW ain't making no playoffs.
Right now he's the number 6 seed at 4-2.
He ain't making no playoffs. Come on. DW ain't making no playoffs.
I believe in DW. DW for listening. I believe. Let's move on now. Speaking of teams, how long or how long can I use or how long can other guys use their team sucks as an excuse? You hear it sometimes in streams and comments and chat and commentate. I think I've heard Bomber say it like, hey, my team's just outmatched. I've heard him say it. I've seen other guys say it. How long can you use that as an excuse?
Well, I think it depends. If you had a high pick and you had a choice of a bunch of teams, you can't. You had the choice to take all these other teams that are good, and you took a team that might not be as good. Hey, I mean, your excuse should be that you're a bad team drafter or something like that. And I don't know why Bomber's complaining. He's 6-2. I mean, he's doing really well. Obviously, that team's going to get better. Now, if you're further down the list, if you're in Fig's spot where obviously you didn't even get to choose your team and you got the Pats who aren't that good, of course, then maybe you can. But honestly, I'm going to say after season 2, no matter who you are, you can't use it anymore. You've had 2 seasons and I feel like some people might say 1 season here with how good the drafts are. I hear, but after the second season, you've had enough time to make trades. I mean, that's what 6 trades you could have made at least. A bunch of draft picks. By that, bunch of development. By that time, it's all on you. So I'm going to say 2 seasons. And if you picked high, I don't really want to hear it because you could have taken anybody.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. This is really subjective on one position, and that position is the quarterback. I really think this Madden is driven by the quarterback. I think when you have one of the elites, you have a guy that is not making a lot of errant throws. You really shouldn't have much excuses because all the other pieces you can find. You can find linemen, you can find players, you can find defensive players. They might not be the elites, but the quarterback is something that is going to make or break users this year. So I would say if you have a quarterback and you're not playing right well now you have zero excuse. If you don't have a quarterback, you can make an excuse, but I'm also going to tell you that if you try to develop a quarterback, it's going to take a long time. So don't use that as an excuse for 3-4 seasons. To me, this Madden, it's going to be all about the quarterback.
Wow. Yeah, for me, I give it 1 season. Season 1 is tough to win in. Especially, I mean, you look at meets with Aaron Rodgers, and he's winning and he's playing well, but he's not even using Aaron Rodgers like he could be. But because of that, he's probably a 8 to 10 win player. Now he might be a 12, 13 win player with the Packers. But after 1 off season, I don't really buy that excuse. You've played the game now. You've played SML. You've seen guys' tendencies. You just can't use the excuse anymore. I don't like excuses. And I know I name dropped Bomber particularly. I think I only heard him say something once, like against Meats, where he was outmatched by a superior Packers team. So I wasn't necessarily trying to pick on him necessarily as much as I was just I don't care for excuses really. And at the end of the day, we play and SML games are super close. And if you're just a little bit smarter, then you're probably going to beat a guy with a better team more often than not.
And as we've seen in this league, the better teams rarely win unless an elite player has them. But I want to touch on what Dan says is that this is a very quarterback-driven Madden. It is, which is, I think, a fantastic thing because the NFL is a quarterback-driven league and it's realistic. But that just brings me to my point. We didn't draft before the game came out. We drafted weeks after the game came out. Everyone had a chance to play the game. Everyone played the game. Everybody was in chat. Everybody knew the quarterback was important. If you had a high pick and you passed on a team with a quarterback for a team that doesn't have one, stop. How do you use that excuse? You took that team with no quarterback and passed on guys like Joe Burrow and guys like Russell Wilson and guys like Josh Allen, knowing the quarterback was important. So, yeah, I'm in the same way. I don't really want to hear it, but I'll give people 2 seasons.
I actually, honestly, unless if a quarterback has fearless and one of those set feet lead elite plays abilities, most quarterbacks play the same. To tell you the truth, I don't see a whole big difference. When they get
there's a big difference. It's not like you said. The OP abilities are there, but a Baker Mayfield's going to play a lot different than a rookie quarterback right now. I think that's pretty obvious.
Well, I haven't played with a rookie. I can't confirm, but I played with Matt Ryan and I played with Baker Mayfield. Ryan has significantly better accuracy ratings, and Baker makes the same throws The only difference is his ball does travel a little bit further because Ryan has like 85 arm strength. I've noticed that. But in terms of accuracy when I'm pressured, I'm not seeing a whole lot of missed throws from Baker.
Yeah, that's because he's a good quarterback.
He's really, if you look at his ratings, he's not. He's above average, and I think
he's good. He's good for what this Madden needs, and that's the point.
this Madden, I think the needs are lower accuracy ratings don't matter as much. I'm just convinced that they don't matter as much. I think you can get away with a less because with free form and with these pass lead trajectory, I feel like they've lessened the need for accuracy ratings. If you can have arm strength, then you're fine. I'm just about convinced as long as you're not under pressure. But we'll see. I don't know. I could be dead or wrong. We'll see. Let's move on. Who on fourth down? Who looks lost or who looks like they're just kind of not playing like they have been or they could be? And Dan, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I got three teams, and one's a little bit of a shock. I might have given away already in this episode. Number 1 and 2 is, I think, pretty obvious. I think Dump and Pauly are both looking really lost right now. I think both of them are playing below their skill ability and aren't adjusting to the new game. I'm hearing a little rumblings from some of the disciples out there that there might be even talk that Pauly is not trying his hardest to win. I'm not going to use the word, but he's not trying his hardest to win, and so there might be some ideas to that. I think Dump's just still trying to play Madden 2022. His route combinations are way too deep, way too long to develop in this version, and he's putting himself into some serious holes. The third one that you might not look at because of the record, but when you look under the hood a little bit, there's some trouble there, and that's DW. Man, I am shocked that DW is 4-2. Congratulations on the wins, but he is 30th in passing right now. He has Josh Allen. Josh Allen is an OP quarterback.
Wow.
There's no reason he should be over 12 passing in this league, and the fact that he can't figure that out right now is a huge red flag that I think might be catching up to him, and I think he's in big trouble. This is a great opportunity to be a passing quarterback, to dominate with someone like Allen, and he is 30th in the league, and I'm concerned about DW.
Yeah, I didn't think about Dump. His record looks worse than it is because he technically beat the Browns. He should be 3-4, and he's had a tough stretch lately where he played Clink, you, Dan, and then the Bengals, and I think that game might have been a little bit closer than it ended up being. But it doesn't really get any easier, especially with that division. So I'm a little bit on the Dump train. He was someone I was going to mention as like a possibly look lost, but I've got faith in him. Pauly was my number 1. I was obviously in Pauly's division when I got in the SML in 21, and then I played him a little bit in 22. He played the same in 22 as he did in 21 without, it was like a carbon copy. And he's probably in 20, he played the same way. And he's trying to do that now. And in this Madden, for once, it doesn't work. I see a lot of PA crossers, those kind of things. And he's just getting absolutely obliterated.
Yeah.
Goff can't make the throws that he wants him to. And so Pauly looks lost. The good news for Pauly, he's 2-4. If he does end up, flaking out this season, he's going to get a good pick. And, he's going to have probably a top 3 pick, if not maybe number 1 pick with having KJ's, who hasn't even won a game yet. So I think the future's bright for Pauly, especially in that division. We know he went there because it's weak, and meats will become weak once Rodgers retires. Faz, that's almost cheating. We have high expectations for Faz, and it's not just that he's been losing games. You just watch him play, and he even said, "Chad, I can't figure this game out." He's making terrible reads, and that's not Faz. That pre-disconnect from Tiny, he was only up by like 4 points. Tiny had, I think, 2 fumbles that were not even his fault. He got an interception, had a chance to take the lead, and his receiver fumbled on an RPO. Like, it was bad luck. Then they DC'd, and Faz blew him out. But Faz is making terrible reads. Like, he's still making throws that I make. So I'm going to throw Faz on there. That's a little bit of cheating. And since it is cheating, I'm going to go with another guy, Fins. We talked about Fins a lot last time. He was undefeated. He was on the Mat 5. In the first 3 games when he was on the Mat 5, when he was undefeated, he had thrown 5 picks through all 3 games. The first game after the Mat 5, he threw 5 picks, got creamed by the Bengals. He then throws 2 against Bomber, actually a decently close game. Throws 4 against Gouda, gets absolutely just blown out of the building, and then destroys Colt like most people do. So
Wow.
I think Fins looks a little bit lost. As soon as that competition ramped up, he didn't look as good.
Matt Five's a curse.
Wow. I want to comment on Faz a little bit. He's got 4 losses right now. 2 of them to the Eagles and Chargers, which are computer games. His only other 2 losses are to me. I think he's not playing as good as he was last cycle. Obviously, the game's different. I don't think the game complements his style well. That's why I was so confident when I started playing this game. I'm like, okay, I'm going to beat Faz a lot this cycle because I played the game and then I started making those comments. And secondly, I think that so I guess what I'm trying to say is he's not playing as good. He doesn't have Gunslinger or an equivalent, and but he's not playing as bad as what people think. His only real 2 human losses are to me, and I think I'm playing really good football right now. So I don't think Faz is as low as some people think he is. One person I was really looking at is Double Rice No Bean, a guy who's got tons of hours in the game. I know he just blew out Humpty Dumpty, but he should be winning this division by more than a half game right now. He's 5-3. He's got a bajillion hours in the game. He has Joe Burrow with an OP ability. This Bengals team is positioned to win now, and he's tied up for first place in a division that's not good. This is his chance to really grab a cycle and really a division and win, and he's still kind of letting me down. Somebody else, he's playing well, and he's been the media darling a little bit, is QB Stud. A lot of people were saying, hey, this guy's back. He had a chance. He had 4 games in a row. Myself, Matt, Bomber, and Faz. I would have been happy if he won 2 of those games. He lost 3 of 4. So when the lights got a little bit brighter, he kind of fizzled. I'm curious how he's going to play the rest of the cycle or the rest of the season, but I think that was a chance for QB to make his mark, and he seemed to come up short in majority of those games.
Yeah, you make a really good point about Faz. I don't think he looks lost record-wise, but when I just watch him play, it's not the Faz I'm used to. I think he threw 4 picks against Tiny, and that's not going to show because the game didn't count, and well, neither did the second one, I think. But just watching that game, if I didn't know who was streaming and who was playing, you would never convince me that was Faz on the stick. So it's just I just have high expectations, and I took this question as who looks lost that doesn't always look lost. And I'm just not seeing the typical passing Faz I'm used to.
That's a good point. Faz without Gunslinger, boys. That's real. Or now pass lead elite. I'll be interested to see what he does with Trevor. Hey guys, extra point time. The Matt 5. Matt, what do you got for us?
Yeah, so this was actually a tricky one, whereas last time it was easy because we just had a few teams that were kind of excelling. Well, the league's kind of caught up, and I've got number 5. I've got Clink. I think he's a quiet assassin right now. I know he got married. I think he was gone week 1. I'm sure being newly married, he's all kinds of busy. So I don't know if it's just he hasn't been in chat much, but he's been quietly playing well. That's a very, very good team. The nice thing about that is that'll be a really good team once Brady is gone. He just needs to figure something out, but he's always been good at that.
Yeah.
He's got wins over Monty, wins over Dump. Again, I'm not that low on Dump. He blew the brakes off of Dom. Who probably could have fit into the last question as well. So I like Clink. At number 4, I've got someone who's a lot like him, and that's Meats. And the only reason I put Meats above him is because Meats beat Clink. I think Meats is playing really well. I think he should have beat the Bears, but he played the end of that game like I don't know, he wanted to lose. He loses on a block kick. Bomber destroyed. The score says he destroyed him. It was a little bit closer, but I think Bomber really, really wanted to win that game. But Meats is on there. He's number 4. He's in big trouble when Rodgers retires. But number 3, I've got Bomber. I don't know, something about Bomber. He started out really, really shaky. He lost that game to Noel. You kind of started thinking, oh boy, what's going to happen to Bomber? Because he beat Field, and then he loses to Noel, and you're like, well, I don't really get a good read on this guy. But He's reeled off 5 of his last 6. His only loss is to QB, who I do think is actually pretty good at this game, but he's not absolutely just losing the mental aspect of the game. But he's got good wins over, he's got a win over the Packers. He's got a win over the Bengals. Those are good teams. I think Bomber, he's got a pretty easy schedule to finish out the season, especially with Pauly. And that division just really going to fall apart. I'm not high on DW either. At number 2, I've got Dan. What can you say? Dan, Dan is a guy that I felt like has lost more games than he has. For some reason, every time I see Dan at 6-1, for some reason I feel like he's lost more than one game, but he hasn't, and he's looked really good. At times, he's not looked really good. He's winning close games, so obviously that's scary. But I do think there's a talent to winning those close games. Beating Mike by 4, obviously no one's going to look at that and say that that's really that impressive. But Mike did beat his division rival, Dan's division rival in QP week 1. So I think Dan's got to find out a way to separate himself from these lesser players. It'll be interesting to see how he does against KJ, who hasn't won a game. But he's winning, and that's all that matters. And we obviously know Dan has the talent to do big things. At number 1, I mean, the BCS rankings came out, and there were number 1 votes that weren't going to you, Prime. I don't understand how that's even possible. You're undefeated. You have the resume. You've beaten Faz twice. You've beaten Freight Train twice. You beat Doink, who plays this game a lot, like the posse does. You're number 1 until you get beat. It's just the way it is. You're the only undefeated team left.
Wow. Thank you. Where was Q? Did you add QP to that list or no? I forget.
No, he didn't have QP.
Whoa!
I was going to say the same thing. Oh,
Nope.
Big oversight for Q.
Nope. QP is. I didn't have myself either. I'm also 6-1. I lost to Noel. I need to win about 5 Super Bowls to gain any respect. And then he lost. QP lost to Mike. I need to see a little bit more.
Wow.
Mike, since winning that game, has looked like he is playing with his eyes closed. So I need to see just a little bit more out of him.
Is this any payback for QP running his mouth about where TA was yesterday? You're like, hey, you want to run your mouth, and we're gonna knock you off the mat 5?
I'll be honest with you. I did not actually see that. So no, it wasn't. QP is my guy, as much as he hates me for taking the Chargers, but I need to see a little bit more from him. His best win is over Monty, in my opinion, which isn't a bad win, but I need to see a little bit more.
It's funny. I'll accept the number 1 ranking as the number 1 BCS player in the SML, but I'm liking this new rivalry between QP and Matt. I'm kind of digging this a little bit. But Dan, do you have any thoughts?
No, I think QP should be on there. I think he's winning big games, and he's figured out some defense, which is good. I am a little curious. We haven't played yet. I'm a little curious, though, if he's figured out that defense that works for a certain type of player. And that's why he's putting up some big scores. So winning by big or winning close doesn't always tell the story. It depends on whether or not you know a few things that you think some of the maybe lesser Madden experienced players don't know, and then you take advantage of that. So I would have had him on my top 5. I wouldn't have had myself number 2, but I understand your reasonings, Matt, and I respect you for it.
Wow.
Thank you, Dan.
I love it, Matt. Great list, guys. Great episode of Total Access. Everybody, thanks for listening. SML action heating up as teams are making the playoff push. Everybody, thanks for listening. That is SML Total Access. And until next time, have a great day.